Welcome to Catalyst, a program about people, ideas, issues, and conversations around them.
Welcome to Catalyst. I'm Doug Webster, host of the education series, A Renewed Culture of Innovation. This series was developed to discuss key issues around stimulating interest in technology, creativity, and innovation, and to help strengthen science, engineering, and technology education capacity. Today's episode is the virtual enterprise, integrating entrepreneurship with science and technology. My guest today is Christoph Winkler. He is the Associate Director of the CUNY Institute for Virtual Enterprise. Dr. Winkler has been the lead architect of the Virtual Enterprise Simulation Platform and the Market Maker, which connects entrepreneurship students across the world. Welcome to the show, Christoph.
Thanks for having me today.
Okay. Can you describe what the CUNY Institute for Virtual Enterprises?
Sure. I'm with the CUNY Institute for Virtual Enterprise, which is a fairly new institute in our university. We're part of the City University of New York, which is the third largest university in the country. We basically serve the colleges throughout the university, which is comprised of about 23 colleges, serving about 250,000 degree-bearing students and about the same amount in a certificate and continuing education programs. Through the Institute, we of course, over the years, have established collaborations with other colleges throughout the United States and internationally. And we pride ourselves to be an entrepreneurial institute, being sort of mandated to secure funding through private foundations and some national grants and local grants in order to develop the programs that we have throughout the university and beyond. So we have established technology and entrepreneurship programs at all different kinds of levels, and I'm excited to talk about these applications today.
Great. Now, the virtual enterprise, what is that about?
So virtual enterprise is a business simulation. It's a pedagogy. It's a strategy in the classroom where students essentially get a chance to act or practice entrepreneurship in a safe environment. And they do this through getting access to a series of technology tools that allow them to connect with other students that participate in the network. So in support of that, we have a series of technology tools that allow us to deliver the instruction. We have our own banking system, our credit card system, a stock market, an e-commerce system. And the students now partake in this activity and simulate entrepreneurship along those lines.
Okay. Well, how many students are involved with the program?
I can't give you an exact head count, but we do work with about 60 institutions, both in the United States and internationally. And we try to connect classrooms from these institutions with one another. It's hard to give you an exact head count, but in terms of the institutions, we have a fairly large spread across the United States and internationally.
Yes. Now, it applies to what levels of education?
You name it. We have been working with high school students all the way to MBA students. So our main focus, though, is at the community college level as well as at the four-year institutions, since this is where we sort of grew out of within the City University. So the program itself started at Kingsborough Community College as part of an EU FIPSI collaboration, and then we sort of spread throughout the university and beyond.
Okay, great. Well, we do have a clip here we can show.
I think it would be a good idea to show the clip to explain it in some short terms.
All right, great.
World world thanks to a college program that began in Brooklyn. CBS Money Watch reporter Claire Leka shows us.
The stock market, although many...
These high school students are going from the classroom to the boardroom, using computers and the internet to create a virtual marketplace. They are selling everything from coffee to online gaming services.
I believe this program has taught me a lot. You know, we have everything that a real business does.
Welcome to the Virtual Enterprise Program. Launched 10 years ago at Kingsborough Community College in Brooklyn, the program has expanded beyond the City University of New York system to include college and high school students across the country, and even as far away as Denmark and Hong Kong. The program gives students a chance to launch their own business and take part in a global e-commerce economy.
Everybody has a website. They post their products and services, their price schedule, and so forth. So it's kind of a large international trading mall, basically, in a closed e-commerce network.
Now the students have their sights set on Wall Street and taking their companies public. They're learning how to develop business plans and to secure venture capital or other financing. When that's done, their stock will trade on a virtual stock market. The ultimate goal is to give the students the skills necessary to take their ideas from the virtual world into the real one.
In the positions that we all have, it shows us how we can deal with other different parts of the department or taxes or bills.
The knowledge and experience is a win-win for the students and the companies they will go on to work for. I'm Claire Leka in New York, CBS 2 News.
Okay, great. Now, can you describe the elements of virtual enterprise?
Yes, absolutely. As you've seen from the clip, these are actually students doing real work. So they do presentations, they work in the classroom. So it is an in-classroom simulation. So it's not a browser-based simulation where students log onto a web browser, they manipulate their variables, and depending on how well or not so well they've manipulated those variables, they are now considered successful or not. This is really active learning inside the classroom. So the first element is the pedagogy itself. So it's active learning, experiential learning, students being involved in the classroom activity. And you can define classroom both as in-classroom environment, online classroom environment, or some hybrid combination. The second component is the technology that supports this. I mentioned earlier that we try to connect students from all different institutions with one another. And we do this through our own proprietary software called the Market Maker, where students can set up online accounts by applying for funding, creating these websites, and then engage in an e-commerce activity using their credit cards. They can also move forward in terms of then launching their businesses in the stock market by going through an IPO, or just trade in the network by purchasing stocks either from other students or student firms or from real stocks. So we have also connected students to the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, London Stock Exchange, and some other international markets. So again, it gives students sort of a mechanism to use the technology to connect with other students, so make it very real, but also connect to real markets in a way to simulate that as well. And the fourth component is essentially the network itself. So we have a fairly robust network spanning within the United States and internationally, and we try to get these students together. Two different strategies of how we do this is through trading days, where on a local level, for example, at university, we organize trade fairs. So students now take their business concepts, they set up booth setups, and we have these students essentially participate in a trade fair. Again, they use the technology to sort of simulate the transactions. Other students assume the role as customers. So it really, again, becomes very, very real. Of course, it's not always easy for a student from Australia to come to New York and participate in the trade fair, or from California. But we also try to facilitate some communication through what we call online trading days. So students now use technology like a GoToMeeting or Skype to present their businesses from their home campus to other students in the network in order for them to practice the presentation skills, to pitch their products and services to one another, and ultimately get some return in terms of monetary transactions through the system. So this is sort of where the loop closes, and we have been fairly successful and excited about having spanned up to 17 time zones in those sales calls.
Great, great. Well, now, is this open access? How do schools and students become part of this?
Well, we have been, as I've mentioned before, fairly successful in raising funds in order to support the technology development along those lines. So we do not charge currently for the use. So people who are interested in participating and using the technology or the tools at their disposal, they're more than welcome to do so. And we try to support this through a series of activities. So we organize webinars for instructors to figure out, okay, how does the technology work? We organize webinars to deal with how can I adopt components of this into my existing curriculum, and also how to deal with sort of some of the classroom management issues, how I can combine the technology with my classroom instruction. And that often requires a little bit of training, moving some individuals from a traditional classroom chalk and talk kind of environment into this more applied learning environment where the instructor assumes more the role of a facilitator, almost a consultant to these businesses in order for them to achieve the goals and objectives of the course. But essentially, it combines the students in this network, and we try to give them as many opportunities to practice as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Why is entrepreneurship education important?
Well, I guess if we look at last week's numbers in terms of the job market, it doesn't look too exciting in terms of the job opportunities that are out there. So I think entrepreneurship must be a viable ingredient in a student's and a graduate's repertoire once they graduate from either high school or college or wherever they find themselves in their lives. So in terms of our mission at the university, really try to combine one of three elements, and we call them the 3 E's. Our graduates at all different kinds of levels should either seek or consider seeking further education as a pathway towards a particular industry progression within their career. So employment is the first one. The second point, education. The second one is employment. Our students should have, well, as a graduate, you should be equipped to fill a particular job need, but also consider entrepreneurship as a viable option within their education. So having sort of these three components as part of your backpack once you graduate, I think is important for a student to sort of move on. Entrepreneurship is essential, not only in terms of the creation of a business, but also in terms of a broader skill set for being able to identify a need in a particular area, whether it's you work for a large company or just see an emerging need within a local community. But being able to identify this problem, this need, try to figure out a solution, and also require the appropriate resources in order to provide this solution, and hopefully also scale it in order to have a larger impact, both in terms of the economic impact, but also the growth for the business itself.
Mm-hmm. Now, what makes the virtual enterprise different from traditional entrepreneurship education?
Let me try to explain this sort of as a dichotomy, where a lot of entrepreneurship programs focus on the mechanics of creating a business plan and all the components that go along with it. So the capstone project of these entrepreneurship programs essentially becomes the business plan, which is an accumulation of ideas, the articulation of a business idea on paper, but the students actually haven't done it. On the other side of the spectrum is there's often an emphasis on brick and mortar incubator programs where students who have either gone through an entrepreneurship program or a selected few on campus are being given access to lab space, to office space in order to jumpstart the business, to sort of reduce some of the overhead that would usually incur when you would start a business. Mm-hmm. But it's very intensive in terms of the budget requirements of the college, and you can only serve a limited amount of students due to capacity constraints. So we sort of, I think, fall somewhere in the middle, where the students, yes, they develop the business plans, but instead of now going out there and jumping right into this incubator model, the students get a solid level of exposure to practicing entrepreneurship within this virtual and global environment that we provide. And yes, it is a simulation. Yes, components are make-believe. But besides the money and the products that are actually not real, everything else is very real and tangible. And there are a lot of ancillary outcomes that go along with that. And yeah, students seem to really buy into their own learning, and they participate. They really take ownership of that learning. I often call this the agency of learning, and sort of this paradigm shift where students now realize, hey, this is my contribution to the classroom, is something exciting to watch in the classroom.
Great. Now, you mentioned high school through MBA. What specifically the high school level? What is going on out there in terms of virtual enterprise at the high school level, and what does that mean?
Well, we as the Institute focus mostly on the college level. We do, however, engage other networks that work on virtual enterprise within the high school level, and a lot of those networks participate in our events and activities. So they may have their own banking system, they may have their own trade shows, but they still participate in some of our activities, like the online sales calls or the IPO presentations or stock market competition.
Right.
So we work very closely with the Department of Education in California, very close with also the folks out in Europe, in Austria and Southeastern Europe. So at that level, we try to also engage many students. And yeah, we are welcoming everyone to sort of partake in this and really exposing students to other students and other educational levels, because this in itself serves sort of as a catalyst, as a motivator to see, okay, I can move along those career paths and really be a part of that.
Great. Now, how does virtual enterprise relate to and support technician engineering education?
Well, we have been working with the National Science Foundation for the past 5 years on a variety of grants. And the whole notion was to look at the Advanced Technician Education Program and really figure out ways of how we can teach the students some basic business skills and soft skills that are become increasingly important within those technician fields. So we started off with a planning grant and then moved on to a project. And the project focused specifically on biotechnology and IT. So we developed essentially virtual enterprise curriculum for biotechnicians and IT technicians. So we've been doing this for the past 3 years in terms of this curriculum development, and have established a fairly wonderful network of partner institutions across the United States. And as of this summer, we received a notification to develop a planning grant for National Center for STEM Entrepreneurship. And the goal here is really to figure out how we can support community college across the United States in terms of infusing business and entrepreneurship into their technician programs to really allow them to broaden sort of the spectrum of the students' learning. I'm often used this quote by Doug Bush, a former Intel executive, who talks about the T-shaped employee, that we're very good at sort of the technical literacy of our students. We're very good at teaching the students those skills. But we often forget sort of the breadth of the operations. The students understand where they fit in with an existing enterprise. So that's sort of, I think, a nice analogy for us to understand how we can teach students very specific skills while also helping them to understand the larger landscape. And as the students move forward in their careers, they need to add more of the technical levels. So there will be more vertical bars added. So now they're talking actually as the M-shaped employee. Students are expected to, switch sort of gears with current graduates 6 to 7 times, but until the time they retire. So they will have to acquire new skills as they move on and transition into new and emerging industries. And they will be working in industries that we haven't even named yet. So it's important to teach them sort of an open mindset in terms of dealing with new content that comes along.
Okay, good. Well, I think we have another clip here we're going to show.
Okay,
So let's go over to that.
Wave Solutions Incorporated. My name is Brian Garofalo.
Sean?
Conrad. Andrew Small.
And Guilherme.
Okay, so we are company Awesome LLC. I'm Matt McCarroll.
I'm Kevin Gardner.
Chris Debbie.
Brian Roach.
Dennis White-Hanko. Stephen Lebezinski.
And we're just going to introduce the design of the amplifier over here. Brian's going to explain a little bit about it.
Yeah. Right here we got the preamp. Right now it's hooked up to the frequency counter, which is pretty much our input. Then we got the power amp over here. 2 potentiometers, one for treble and bass, one for volume. And then we got the power, the proto board, which is pretty much supplying our plus and minus 12 volts in the ground.
Basically, that's our amplifier. It's composed of 2 circuits, preamp and power amplifier.
Okay, great.
This was actually an interesting example of one of our partner colleges, Brookdale Community College in New Jersey, and they used an electronics course, a capstone course where students built a device, an amplifier in this case, and essentially then built the business aspects around this. And this is sort of how we interpret this whole notion of being an entrepreneurial technician. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to figure out what this actually means right now. So we're gathering a series of focus groups, and we have a meeting up at the National Science Foundation PI meeting coming up in October, where we try to see how people interpret the whole notion of being an entrepreneur as a technician in an existing enterprise often. And so we're trying to work through these motions and then find a definition. But essentially, what is critical here is that we really see entrepreneurship as a broader skill set. Entrepreneurship does not necessarily mean the creation of a business. It can mean that you can operate in an existing enterprise, are able to identify an innovation or come about an innovation, and then within the enterprise try to resources accordingly and get it to the market and provide a better workflow and a better product within this enterprise. So really see this more as a broader skill set, and so it's both a combination of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship and in the traditional definitions.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like there is a difference between a technician understanding all aspects of the business or all aspects of the industry versus being entrepreneurship within the scope of their technical work, if you will.
Yes, well, there is a difference, because you could be a technician working on in a particular lab, but just figuring out how the different departments sort of work together and how my product that I'm working on sort of makes its rounds all the way to the marketplace. Yes, I understand the broader business knowledge, but it doesn't mean that I'm actually acting entrepreneurially. I think adding this extra level of being an active participant of the work process and continuously trying to improve it is an aspect of thinking entrepreneurially within this work process. So I agree with you that there is a difference.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. What are your plans moving forward with the project?
Well,
in the school?
We're trying to certainly expand our network of participants. We really believe in connecting more institutions through our technology and providing learning opportunities for our students, really giving them as much exposure to other colleges and other institutions as much as possible, because I think through exposure to what other people are doing, you can see sort of the differences and learn from them and really develop further. I think it's a very important component of learning. And if this all happens while you're doing something fun and exciting, the better. And hopefully a lot of our graduates move on to actually starting their own businesses and just become entrepreneurs within our economy and really try to help and be innovative. That's sort of the goal. And I guess lastly, we hope those who get the grant for the National Center in order to support a lot of these activities, particularly within the STEM field, but even other disciplines that we work with as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as expanding the program, you want to get more people engaged throughout the United States, throughout the world. The more the better.
I think
more people talking with each other.
Tom Friedman sort of quoted, like, the world is flat. So I
Yeah.
think we also need to bring this into our classroom instruction and not just talk about the fact that there are other people out there. If we keep them engaged at a very high level, give our students exposure to other students from other places, whether it's students from New York talk to a student in Ohio, or students from Ohio talk to a student in Denmark, it doesn't really matter. But it is important that students have this conversation because, yeah, I think we'll get closer as we move forward, and I think, yeah, we'll have to work through these motions to give our students as much experience as possible to take advantage of these opportunities.
Great. Now we have URLs on the website, to direct people and all that. But what would you recommend people do if they wanted to get more information about the virtual enterprise?
I would suggest to go out to our website on ive.cuny.edu. You can get my contact information there, and then reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to people who are interested. And also then I can direct them further to recorded webinars, to set up training sessions and along those lines. So I'm happy for an open discussion along those lines.
Great, excellent. Well, Christoph, thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoyed your first visit to Vermont here.
That was great. Thanks for having me.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you.